Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt like giving up when life became too heavy? Have you ever sat in silence wondering why the pain keeps knocking again and again? You're not alone. Millions battle with inner storms every single day, the kind of storms that don't show on your face but roar inside your soul. Today, we're not just going to talk about pain. We're going to transcend it. We're going to uncover the deeper meaning behind pain and how it can become the very catalyst for your awakening. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is a messenger. It's life's way of speaking to your soul, not to break you, but to build you, to guide you, to realign you. In this journey, we're not escaping pain. We're embracing it, moving through it, and using it as a portal to personal power. This isn't about temporary motivation. This is about spiritual clarity, deep alignment, and tapping into a part of yourself that's far stronger than the struggle. Let's begin. Pain is one of the few experiences in life that cannot be faked, escaped, or ignored for long. It finds its way into every human heart, no matter how strong, how spiritual, or how successful a person appears to be. But what if the pain you're feeling is not meant to punish you, but to prepare you? What if it's not a curse, but a call? Life does not waste energy creating pointless suffering. Everything has a place, even your pain. The key lies in how you perceive it. Most people treat pain as the enemy, as a barrier to joy, a wall blocking peace. But the truth is, pain is not the wall, it's the doorway, a portal through which your deeper self is calling you forward. The difference between those who remain stuck in suffering and those who rise above it is not the pain itself, it's the meaning they give to it. The same heartbreak that shatters one person becomes the fuel for another to love more deeply. The same loss that cripples one spirit teaches another the sacredness of every breath. Pain is not a dead end. It is a spiritual beginning disguised as chaos. When you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what is this trying to teach me? You shift the entire conversation with life. Most of the time, pain is not random. It shows up in the exact places where transformation is required. If there's pain in your relationships, it may be asking you to heal your inner wounds, not just blame others. If there's pain in your work, it might be pointing you toward a deeper calling you've ignored. Pain is precise. It doesn't miss, and when it visits, it brings with it the opportunity for a sacred inner reconstruction, the tearing down of old beliefs, the burning away of illusions, and the rebuilding of your true self. But that can only happen if you stop running and start listening. People often talk about breakthroughs as sudden moments of light, clarity, and joy, but they forget that before the light comes the fire. Before the clarity comes the chaos. Pain often precedes revelation. It cracks the shell that ego has built around the soul. That cracking, that discomfort is not a mistake. It's a process. Just as a seed must split before it grows, your sense of self must stretch, break, and evolve before it expands. The pain you're feeling is not breaking you down. It's breaking you open. You are not being punished. You are being purified. In that sacred tension between who you were and who you are becoming, pain is the force that strips away all that is false. It is the divine scalpel that cuts through pride, ego, fear, and illusion, not to harm, but to heal, to return you to what's real. That's why pain often visits during moments of great transition, not because you're failing, but because you're shifting. Your old self is shedding, your new self is being formed, and that in-between place is uncomfortable because it is unfamiliar, but it is also holy. Look back on your life. The deepest lessons, the most profound awakenings, they didn't come when everything was easy. They came in the silence after a loss, in the tears following rejection, in the sleepless nights of worry and waiting. In those moments when everything external collapsed, something internal was born. A part of you awakened that didn't need approval, didn't chase perfection, and didn't fear failure. That version of you is only accessible through the portal of pain. It is the unshakable self that knows, no matter what breaks around me, I am still whole. Pain is a teacher with tough love. It will keep knocking until you answer. It will keep rising until you meet it with your full presence. Because pain wants to show you something you've been unwilling to see. Maybe it's a limiting belief you've outgrown. Maybe it's a pattern you keep repeating. Maybe it's a truth you've been too afraid to face. Whatever it is, pain doesn't arrive to linger forever. It arrives to get your attention, and once its message is received, it begins to dissolve. but you must move toward it. Most people spend their lives avoiding pain, distracting themselves with noise, numbing with pleasure, chasing achievements that never satisfy. But what you avoid controls you. What you face frees you. When you walk straight into the discomfort, not with bitterness, but with curiosity, you begin to discover that pain was never meant to imprison you. It was meant to awaken you, not to trap you in suffering, but to lead you into deeper peace. Not to make you bitter, but to make you wise. Not to shut your heart, but to break it open so that more light could enter. In the end, pain reveals what truly matters. It quiets the ego's demands and amplifies the soul's whispers. It shifts your focus from what is urgent to what is essential. In pain, you no longer chase status. You seek truth. You no longer mask your emotions. You embrace your humanity. And in doing so, you become whole, not because the pain disappears, but because you learn to hold it without being consumed by it. There is a natural instinct within all of us to turn away from pain, to avoid it, escape it, reject it, deny it. The moment discomfort arises, the mind immediately searches for a way out, a distraction, a justification, a story to soften the edges of what we feel. But in doing so, we don't relieve ourselves from the pain. We multiply it. We stretch it across days, weeks, years, sometimes even a lifetime. Pain in its rawest form is intense, but it's temporary. Suffering, however, is pain prolonged by resistance. It's the byproduct of fighting what already is. The great misunderstanding is this: we think that if we resist the pain, we can control it. That if we push it down far enough, bury it beneath our responsibilities, our smiles, our routines, it will vanish. But pain is energy, and energy does not disappear. It transforms, it moves, it waits. When you don't allow yourself to feel your pain, it doesn't die. It hides. It settles into your body as tension, illness, fatigue. It settles into your thoughts as anxiety, depression, restlessness. It becomes the undertone of your life, dictating your decisions, relationships, and identity without you even realizing it. You can dress pain up. You can mask it with productivity. You can silence it with entertainment. You can numb it with habits that bring temporary relief. But none of these things address the root. They simply delay the inevitable. The moment where life finally slows you down, strips you of your defenses, and places the unprocessed wound in front of you again. Not out of cruelty, but out of compassion. Because the soul knows what the mind forgets. The only way out is through. When you resist pain, you enter a war within yourself. One part of you is begging to be heard, to express, to release, to grieve, while another part is working overtime to suppress and control. That inner conflict drains your spirit. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The more force you use to keep it down, the more powerfully it will rise when you finally lose strength. And it always rises. Pain will always find its way to the surface, whether through a quiet moment of solitude or a full-blown emotional collapse. The alternative is presence, stillness, acceptance, to sit with your pain without judgment, to stop labeling it as good or bad, fair or unfair, deserved or undeserved. Pain doesn't need your opinion. It needs your attention. It needs you to listen, to breathe through it, to allow it to pass through your system like a storm, not because you force it out, but because you no longer hold it back. That is where healing begins, not when you fix the pain, but when you feel it fully. There is a profound intelligence in pain. It speaks in sensations, intentions, and tears. It knows where you've been holding back. It knows where you've betrayed your truth. It knows what needs to be acknowledged in order for you to return to wholeness. But that wisdom can only be heard in the silence of surrender. When you finally stop trying to outrun your experience and instead lean into it, a transformation occurs. The pain doesn't disappear instantly, but it changes shape. It goes from something that threatens your peace to something that becomes a part of your awakening. Resisting pain is rooted in fear. the fear that we are too weak to handle what we feel. But strength is not found in avoidance, it's found in softness, in being able to say this hurts without shame, in allowing the tears to fall without needing to explain them, in being human without apology. The paradox is this: when you stop resisting, you actually suffer less. The moment you stop trying to push the pain away and instead allow it to be there, its grip loosens. Because most of the time, it's not the pain itself that's unbearable, it's the internal battle against it. Every time you choose to be present with your pain, you reclaim your power. You break the cycle of suppression and reaction. You show yourself that you are not fragile, not broken, not unworthy of peace. You are capable of holding space for your own discomfort. And in doing so, you make space for your own healing. You stop depending on the outside world to save you from what only your inner presence can resolve. You stop seeking escape and start discovering liberation. There is a quiet courage in stillness, in choosing not to distract yourself, in allowing the emotion to rise and trusting that it will also fall. That trust builds over time. It deepens as you begin to see pain not as an enemy, but as a guide. As you recognize that your worst moments did not destroy you, they refined you. They exposed the places in your soul that still needed light, love, and compassion. And every time you faced your pain instead of fleeing from it, you grew, you evolved, you softened and strengthened at the same time. When you stop resisting pain, life becomes more honest, more open. You begin to live from a place of deep truth, not just surface comfort. You speak more authentically. You love more vulnerably. You listen more deeply because you are no longer afraid of feeling. And when you're not afraid to feel, you're not afraid to live. Pain doesn't scare you anymore because you've made peace with it. You've sat with it in your darkest hours. You've held its hand instead of turning your back. And in doing so, you've discovered something that resistance could never reveal. Your pain may be part of your path, but it is not the end of it. Pain often feels permanent when we are sitting in the middle of it. The weight, the pressure, the ache, it all feels infinite, but it isn't. The human experience is filled with passing seasons. Emotions rise, circumstances change, storms come and go. Yet when we are hurt, we tend to believe that the pain will last forever, that the discomfort will never ease, that we are stuck in a reality that is closed in around us. This illusion is created by the mind, which feeds on fear and repetition. It projects the current moment into the future and calls it destiny. But pain, no matter how loud it gets, is still temporary. It is a passing state, not a permanent identity. The soul, on the other hand, lives outside of time. It knows that every experience is a wave, and every wave returns to stillness. But the mind craves control. It wants answers, timelines, guarantees. When pain arises, the mind immediately demands to know how long it will last. And in the absence of certainty, it creates stories, dark, endless stories about doom and despair. It tells you, this is who you are now. This is your life from here on out. You will never get better. And if you're not careful, you start to believe it. You start to merge with the pain, to identify with the suffering, to forget that you are something deeper than what you feel. But there is a quiet awareness beneath all of it, a space within you that does not come and go with circumstances. That awareness is still there when you're laughing, and it's still there when you're crying. It doesn't change when the world shakes. It simply observes. It watches without judgment, without resistance, without fear. That space within you is your refuge. It is your truth. It is the part of you untouched by pain, unaffected by time, unchanged by the chaos around you. The practice, then, is to return to that place, to remember that you are not your feelings. You are the awareness having the feelings. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it. The key to transcending pain is not to escape it, but to see through it, to see that beneath the surface of every difficult moment is a deeper invitation, a call to awaken, to grow, to expand. When you stop treating pain as an obstacle and start seeing it as a mirror, everything changes. Pain shows you where you are still holding on, where you have not yet let go, where you are still clinging to an outdated version of yourself or the world. In that way, pain is not a curse, but a compass. It points to what needs to be healed, what needs to be released, what needs to be transformed. Sometimes the most painful moments are the ones that initiate the most profound awakenings. They break open the hardened parts of our heart. They humble us. They slow us down. They strip away the noise and leave only what is essential. In those moments, when all the distractions fall away, we come face to face with ourselves, raw, honest, and vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, we find strength that we didn't know existed. We find clarity that no amount of comfort could have brought. Because pain doesn't just hurt, it reveals. It reveals who we truly are beneath all the masks. The reason most people stay stuck in pain is because they resist the process of change. They want relief without transformation. They want peace without the death of old beliefs. But true transcendence requires surrender. It requires a willingness to let go of who you thought you were so that you can become who you truly are. That means letting go of the victim identity, the need for certainty, the attachment to the past. That means stepping into the unknown and trusting that something wiser than your mind is guiding the journey. When you stop fighting for the past and begin embracing the present, even when it hurts, you begin to move, you begin to heal, not because the pain vanishes overnight, but because it loses its grip on your identity. You are no longer saying, "I am broken." You are now saying, "I am growing." You are no longer saying, "I can't handle this." You are now saying, "This too shall pass." And those words, spoken with sincerity, begin to change everything. They remind you that pain is not a prison sentence. It is part of a passage. And that passage is sacred. You start to notice that every time you survive a difficult moment, a new layer of resilience is born. You look back on things that once felt unbearable and realize how much you've evolved. You begin to trust your inner strength more than your outer circumstances. And from that trust comes a new sense of peace. Not the kind of peace that depends on everything going right, but the kind that stays with you even when everything feels wrong. That peace comes from knowing that you are not at the mercy of your emotions. You are the master of your response. You are the observer, the listener, the soul navigating through human storms. Pain will still come. That's part of life. But it will no longer define you. It will no longer paralyze you. You will feel it, honor it, and move with it, like a dancer learning to trust the rhythm of every beat, even when it hurts. Because when you know that the pain is temporary, when you know that it cannot take away your essence, you stop fearing it. You welcome it as part of your becoming. You allow it to shape you, not scar you, and in doing so you don't just survive the pain, you transcend it, you rise above it, you grow through it, you become someone who no longer runs from discomfort, but walks straight into it with courage, faith, and grace. We spend so much of our lives searching outward for answers, for solutions, for someone to save us from our circumstances. When pain comes, when hardship strikes, our first instinct is to believe we are missing something, that we lack the strength, the wisdom, the resources to overcome it. And so we look to others, to systems, to external voices to guide us out. But the truth is this: the strength you're looking for has been within you all along. The power to rise, to heal, to move through even your darkest days does not exist somewhere outside of you. It exists in the core of who you are. You may have forgotten it, you may have buried it, but it has never left you. Pain, for all its discomfort, is one of the few forces in life that strips away illusion. When you're brought to your knees by life, there is no space left for pretending, no more energy for masks. In those moments, when everything else is stripped away, something raw and real emerges from within you. That something is your inner power. It doesn't roar or make grand speeches. It doesn't need to be seen or validated. It is quiet, steady, and ancient. It is the part of you that doesn't flinch when everything crumbles. It is the part that whispers, keep going, even when your mind screams, I can't. The human spirit is not fragile. It is not weak. It is resilient, adaptable, and fiercely determined when awakened. The issue is not that people don't have power, it's that they've forgotten how to connect with it. We've been conditioned to doubt ourselves, to play small, to believe that strength only belongs to the exceptional. But strength is not exclusive. It is not reserved for the elite. It lives inside the mother waking up for her child after no sleep. It lives in the person facing illness with courage. It lives in the heart that chooses to love again after being broken. Power is not always loud. Often it is the quiet decision to try again, to breathe through one more moment, to stay when everything tells you to run. Pain reveals that you are not who you thought you were. You are not your titles, your roles, your possessions, or your failures. You are not the voice in your head that says you're not enough. Beneath all of that lies your essence, a presence that is whole, worthy, and deeply capable. When you begin to trust this part of you, you shift from feeling powerless to becoming purposeful. You stop waiting to be rescued and begin rising from within. You realize that no matter how broken things appear on the surface, you are not broken. You are becoming. Every scar is a symbol of survival. Every challenge is proof of your endurance. This power within you is not something you have to earn. It is not something you need permission to access. It doesn't depend on your past or your current situation. It is not strengthened by praise nor diminished by rejection. It simply is, always present, always waiting for you to remember it. The journey through pain is, in many ways, the journey back to this power, back to your truth, back to the place within you that does not waver when the world shakes, the place that cannot be destroyed by trauma, by loss, by failure. In a world that teaches us to constantly seek validation, to perform for approval, to chase success as a substitute for peace, returning to your inner power can feel radical, but it is the only way to truly heal, because lasting healing doesn't come from fixing everything outside of you. It comes from reclaiming what's already inside. It comes from realizing that you were never truly lost. You were only disconnected from the part of you that knows your worth, your light, your strength, and the deeper you reconnect with that place, the less you fear pain, because you understand that no matter what comes, you will not abandon yourself. Pain may shake your foundation, but it also reveals what's real. And what's real is that you are enough even in your most vulnerable state. You are whole even when you're healing. You are powerful even when you're uncertain. You don't need to wait until life is perfect to remember who you are. You don't need to have it all figured out to walk in your truth. The power is not something you become after you get through the pain. It is something you find in the middle of it, something you embody while still feeling the ache, still navigating the unknown, still showing up even when it's hard. The most courageous thing you can do in your pain is to believe that you still have value, to believe that the struggle doesn't erase your purpose, that even when you feel tired, confused, and alone, there is a quiet fire within you that hasn't gone out. And that fire is enough to light your next step. You don't need to know the entire path. You just need to trust that you carry what it takes to walk it. Even when your voice trembles, even when your knees shake, you can move forward with the awareness that everything you need is already here. True power is presence. It's choosing to show up when you don't feel ready. It's listening to your intuition when the noise of fear is loud. It's giving yourself grace when you fall and the courage to get back up without shame. It's refusing to let the pain define you or the past confine you. You are more than what you've been through. You are what you choose to become because of it. You don't need to become someone new. You only need to return to what you've always been. Underneath the doubt, the fear, the hurt, you are whole. You are ready. You are powerful beyond measure. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. What defines us is not the absence of struggle, but how we meet it. Every wound, every heartbreak, every sleepless night carries within it the potential to awaken something extraordinary inside us. The path through pain is not paved with resistance, denial, or distraction. It is cleared by acceptance, presence, and surrender. When we stop running and start listening, pain becomes our teacher. It invites us to go deeper, to shed the false layers of identity, and to connect with the unbreakable truth of who we really are. We were never meant to live numb, buried under the weight of our wounds. We were meant to rise, to feel, to heal, and to walk forward with a renewed sense of clarity. Pushing through the pain isn't about becoming tougher, it's about becoming truer. When we stop treating pain as a punishment and begin honoring it as a sacred invitation, we begin to see the beauty woven into our struggles. We begin to realize that pain was never there to break us, it was there to wake us, and in waking we remember our power, our purpose, and our infinite capacity to transform.